Good morning, everyone. Today is not really, but we celebrate Buddha's enlightenment. From the last day of November until 7th, we had Rohatsu session, even though I didn't sit. Some people sat focusing on just sitting. I really appreciate, that kind of practice is continued. I think my mission is to transplant that form of session. And to do so, of course, we need to less intensive practice also to, it's not possible to sit 14 periods a day for 7 days or 5 days. So we need to have less intensive practice also. And also my talk and my translation and writing books is about, it's kind of dangerous to sit so much without understanding what we are doing. So my talking and writing and translation is to support that practice. So I think my mission, I was asked from my teacher, is to transform this kind of practice. So I'm really glad after my, not retirement, I hope I retire. I hope I can retire, but not really. But anyway, even after I step down from the position of abbot of Sanshinji, the same kind of practice continued. On the occasion of this celebration of Buddha's awakening, until 2019, I give talk every year, each year. But in my record, 2019 was the last time I talk on this occasion because of pandemic. And when I talked about Buddha's awakening, I usually use the text from Pali canon about Buddha's awakening. Actually, there's no description about the actual moment of Buddha's awakening. Even Buddha himself didn't talk, but Buddha talked about the difference before and after his awakening. That kind of Pari Sutta is one thing I have been talking. And another is Dogen's Dharma discourse about on the occasion of Buddha's awakening. And these two are quite different. So until I understand, those sutta about Buddha's awakening or difference between before and after Buddha's awakening, and also what Dogen is talking about, is really interesting. I liked both, but these looked very different. So one thing I have been searching is what is the connection between Dogen's teaching and early Buddhist teaching. This is really a question. Since I've started to study Buddhism, when I entered Komazawa University, I had to study the history of Buddhist teaching from Shakyamuni through Mahayana and Dogen in our tradition. And it seems Buddha's teaching and Dogen's teaching are so different. I didn't understand these are really one teaching or not. But I liked both. So one thing I have been searching was what is a connection or thread. I know Shakyamuni and Dogen, between Shakyamuni and Dogen, there are more than 1,000 years or almost 1,500 years gap. So, and Buddhism came through from India, China, Korea, and Japan. So it went through different cultures. So the expression is very different. And yet there must be something common, or there must be some thread between Buddha's awakening and the fact Dogen is teaching. That was one of the points I'd like to study. And this day, I think what the Parivatta Sutta is saying about Buddha's awakening, and Dogen talked on the occasion of Buddha's awakening, actually the same thing. Through that, I could say so through my practice of zazen. It's not possible to make that connection through, Buddhist scriptures, because I'm not a scholar, and I'm not sure if it's possible or not, even for scholars. But through my practice of zazen, I feel these two are actually the two different expressions about the same reality or truth, and that is our zazen. Well, in 2019, I introduced one Parivatta. And in the year before, I talked about Dogen's poem about Buddha's awakening. So today I'd like to, make a connection between these two. So first I introduced, so if you remember what I talked 4 years ago, you don't need to listen. But even I don't remember what I said. So I start from what is said in the Parivatta Sutta. The title of this sutta is Phases of the Clinging Aggregates. Phases of the clinging aggregate. Clinging aggregate in Chinese or Japanese is go, shu, un. Go is 5, shu is clinging. This shu is a translation of a Sanskrit word upadana. This is one of the 12 links of causation. And un is skandhas or aggregate. So usually this is translated into English as the 5 aggregate of clinging or attachment. And this goshu un or 5 aggregate of attachment is considered as one of the definition of Mara. So this is Mara. Anyway, Shakyamuni, this is Shakyamuni's speech. It said, at Savatthi, this is the name of the city, Bhikshus, Buddha said, Bhikshus, there are these 5 aggregate subjects to clinging, that is Goshu Un. Fat 5, the form aggregate subject to clinging, the feeling aggregate, and he repeat 5 times. So this is about 5 aggregate that are, I think you know what 5 aggregate are. Those are Shiki, Ju, So, Gyo, and Shiki. Shiki is form. Ju is a feeling or sensation. And So is perception. And Gyo is formation. And Shiki is consciousness. These are called 5 aggregate. And what Buddha said is, this is only thing that exists. There's nothing beside these 5 aggregate. And in the case of human life, our body is form, and other 4 aggregates are a function of our mind. So mental element, material element, and mental element. That means our body and mind. So beside body and mind, there's nothing. There's nothing means there's no such things called Atman. Atman is something, these 5 aggregates are empty, unchanging, impermanent. So nothing is permanent. And in India, Atman is considered to be a permanent self. And according to Buddhist teaching, when 5 aggregate function as one machine, they 5 aggregate produce the idea or concept of Atman, or our self. So self or Atman is a production of 5 skandhas, and yet 5 skandhas cling to this self and think this is most important. And this Atman or self is a owner and driver, like a driver of the car, of 5 aggregate. So 5 aggregate create the concept of Atman or the self. And yet 5 aggregate think they belong to this self. That is kind of an interesting idea, but I think that is true. And 5 aggregate that is impermanent think self or Atman is permanent. It doesn't change. Anyway, this is what Buddha taught. So there's no such permanent self, but everything is the function or movement of 5 skandhas. And when 5 skandhas or 5 aggregate cling to themselves, so both subject who cling to is 5 aggregate, and the 5 aggregate are object of clinging. So only 5 aggregate cling to 5 aggregate. Both subject and object are 5 aggregate. That is a basic teaching of Buddha. And in that condition, 5 aggregate are called Mara. And it said when he was sitting under the Bodhi tree, he conquered the Mara. But even after he had enlightenment, he lived with his body and mind, and that are 5 aggregates. So he didn't kill the Mara, but he conquered. So it's important to understand what this conquering means. It's not killing or eliminating 5 skandhas, because Buddha needs his 5 skandhas to live as a Buddha, to teach, to help others. He needs 5 skandhas. So Mara was conquered, but 5 skandhas was not eliminated. I think that is an important point. So in that sense, the function of 5 skandhas are transformed, not eliminated. Anyway, this is about that transformation. So he listed up the 5 skandhas, and he said, so long as I did not directly know, this is Buddha, so long as I did not directly know as they really are, the 5 aggregate subject to clinging in 4 phases. 4 phases are what he's going to talk later. So when what he's saying is until he directly know what are 5 skandhas. In 4 phrases, he said, I did not claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment. But when I directly knew all this as it really is, all this means those 4 phases of 5 skandhas. But when I directly knew all this as it really is, then I claimed to have awakened to this unsurpassed perfect enlightenment. So he said, that is a difference. He didn't talk what is awakening, but he said there's something changed. And now he talks about 4 phases of 5 skandhas, and how, because there, and how are there 4 phases? 4 phases are, I directly knew. So this directly knew is important. That is what he experienced. I think before his awakening, he understood, he knew, or he thought, this is a problem. But he didn't directly knew. This direct knowledge is only through experience. So this is an important point. That is a change, transformation. And what are these 4 phases? I directly knew form, about form. His first talk about form. Form and its origin, its cessation, and the way leading to its cessation. I think you understand these 4 phases. This is the same as 4 Noble Truths. In the case of 4 Noble Truths, suffering, cause of suffering, and cessation of suffering, and the way which leads to cessation of suffering. And he says the same thing about each of the 5 aggregates. What is form, and what is arising of form, and what is the cessation of form, and what is the way to, or path to lead a cessation of form. And he said the same thing about other 4 aggregates also. so he said, and how are there four phases I directly knew: form, its origin, its cessation, and the way leading to its cessation. And he continued about repeated about four other aggregates. And he says, and fat is form. Fat is form. The four great elements are chi, sui, ka, fu. What is chi, sui, ka, fu? Earth, water, fire, and wind. Those are four. In India, consider those four are the elements that compose everything. So these are basic elements. And he said, the four great elements and the form derived from the four great elements. So for those four elements and all the things created or made of those four elements, that are the form. This is called form. With the arising of nutriment, there is the arising of form. So the cause of form is arising of nutriment. In the case of our body, some food and other things that keep our body and allow us to grow. And each and everything has not really a food, but cause and condition to keep them together, in this case as an eraser. So those are the cause of form. And with the cessation of nutriment, when those causes and conditions ceased, there is the cessation of form. Form ceased to be. And this noble eightfold path, this noble eightfold path, I think all of you know, those are right view, right thinking, right speech, right actions, right livelihood, and right efforts, and right thinking or memory, and right samadhi, and right speech. Those are eightfold noble paths. And he said, these eightfold noble paths is the way or path to cessation of form. I didn't understand what this means. That form, material things cease to be by our practice. That's a strange idea, I think. And in order to practice eightfold noble paths, we need form, our body and our mind. So it's really difficult to understand what this means because of our practice of those eightfold noble paths. Form cease to be. It's kind of an interesting idea. So he talks about the same thing about all those five aggregates. So this, those five aggregates to cease by our practice of eightfold noble paths is not really the form, because we don't kill our body and mind by practice. So we need to understand what this means. And Buddha says, whatever ascetics and Brahmins, having thus directly known form, its origin, its cessation, and the way leading to its cessation, are practicing for the purpose of reversion toward form, for its fading away and cessation. They are practicing well. Those who are practicing well have gained a foothold in this Dharma and discipline. Dharma is truth and teaching about the truth, and discipline means Vinaya precept or our practice. So teaching and practice is established by seeing what is form, and what is the cause of form, and what is the cessation of form, what is the way which leads to cessation of form. And he said, he repeat almost the same thing about other four aggregates. But in the case of next three, about the form, he said nutrient, but about those three aggregates, he said contact. Contact means six sense organs and the object of six sense organs encounter. This encountering is contact. And because of this contact, we have due, feeling or sensation, and perception and formation. If there's no contact, then there's no feeling or perception or formation. Because of contact of subject and object, sense organ and object of sense organs. So I don't think I need to talk about these three, but interesting is final thing about Shiki, or consciousness. About the four phases of consciousness, Buddha says, and what is consciousness? There are six classes of consciousnesses. Six classes of consciousness refer to eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness. These are consciousness caused by six sense organs. And this is called consciousness. With the arising of name and form, with the arising of name and form, there is the arising of consciousness. Instead of contact, Buddha said, name and form is the cause of arising of consciousness. To me, this is interesting and important. That is, name and form in Pali or Sanskrit is nama and rupa. Nama is name and rupa is material. So, and this refers to the object of consciousness. In the 12 links of causation, Nama-rupa appeared one of, I think, 1, 2, 3 or 4, fourth link. But in the 12 links of causation, the meaning of Nama-rupa is different. But in all the teaching of dependent origination, Nama-rupa refer to the object of, in this case, consciousness. that means, through, those 6 consciousnesses, there's a perception and formation. And the object of our consciousness is not those materials outside of ourselves, but those 6 objects of consciousnesses in the process of this 5 aggregate. This, in a sense, this is internalized. That means object of consciousness is Namarupa. And as I often said, Namarupa means this as a material, this is it. And the name is, this is a black marker. And this name, black marker, shows that connection or relation between this person and this material. Because now I have to write something on the whiteboard. I need a marker. And I try not to use a red marker, but I try to use a black marker. So black marker means to me, this is a marker and better than red marker. So to me, this has some value. And I think this is a black marker for me. But this is a black marker, only certain period of time. When the ink is dried up, I change the name, become garbage. So black marker is not really this itself, but it has the relation between this person and this thing. And this relation is changed. Then the name Nama is changed, even though almost as a material, this is almost the same thing. Instead, except that ink is dried up, still this changes. So this is impermanent. But the concept of black marker doesn't change. That is the same as Atman or permanent self. I think black marker is always black marker. Or a baby is always a baby as a concept, but actual baby is always changing and become a boy or girl. So baby negate the babyhood, but for now, baby is 100% a baby. Anyway, that is important. So this is what Buddha said, the object of consciousness is Namarupa, name and material form. And he says, with the cessation of name and form, so Namarupa has cessation, it's go out of being, of consciousness. So with the cessation of Namarupa, name and form, there is a cessation of consciousness. So because these two are interdependent. So when Namarupa disappeared, consciousness disappeared. When Namarupa is there, consciousness is there. So in the case of 12 links of causation, this is called dependent origination. But in this case, consciousness and Namarupa are interdependent. That means consciousness depends on Namarupa, and Namarupa depends on consciousness. When one thing disappear, another thing disappear. And this is cessation of consciousness. When Namarupa disappear, consciousness disappears. And this Noble Eightfold Path is the way leading to the cessation of consciousness. That is right view and so on. So when we practice Eightfold Noble Path, this is happening. Happening means consciousness, the relation or dichotomy of consciousness and its object, that is Namarupa, disappear. This is really interesting, and I didn't understand what this means. This means, when there is two things, consciousness and Namarupa, object of consciousness, then there is, interaction. But when one thing disappeared, other thing disappeared. When object disappeared, subject, consciousness disappeared. To me, this is strange teaching for many years, but I think this is important. What this really means. How can we cease or eliminate Namarupa, object of things, or object of consciousness? When I think about this teaching in terms of my zazen practice, I think I understood what this means. That means when we are sitting, we don't close the gate of those five consciousnesses, five aggregates. So our eyes, we keep our eyes open, and we cannot close our ears or nose. So everything is open. So when we sit, open our eyes, we see the wall. But when we are sitting in our zazen, the wall is not an object of our eye. Or even though we hear the sound, for example, birds sing, or any noise from outside, but we don't think those are the object of our ear. So even though there's no separation, we are not subject, and those the or the sound from outside are not object. This subject-object relation is cancelled, even though our consciousness is here, our sense organ is functioning, and those colors and sound and also so on are still happening there. Still, this relation between subject-object are not there. About first five sense organs, but the final one, 6, is our mind, and mind, an object of mind is something happening in our mind. So this is most problematic. Even we are sitting, all different kind of thinking are coming and going, and we don't eliminate. We don't fight against them. Of course, we don't grasp them, and yet, thoughts are there. So we cannot say there's no thought. But as I always said, I don't think. I'm sitting, and thoughts are there. So this is the relation between subject, object, is same as birds singing and our zazen. Even though birds are singing, actually, I don't listen and I don't hear. Even though thoughts are coming and going, I don't think. I'm sit. So this thought is not me or my action. But it's really difficult. It's kind of easy to understand about first 5 sense organs, but it's really difficult because it's happening in here, in our mind, as a nama rupa coming and going, and almost always I think this is me. So it's really difficult to just sit and keep all of them, let them come and let them go. Because I think this thought is me. We identify ourselves to what is happening in our mind. But it's really important. Thought and person sit in our zazen, person sitting and thought are the same relation with wall and person sitting by letting go. But when we start to think, that means the person sitting becomes subject and those thoughts become object. This is consciousness and namarupa. But when I let go, open our hand, then this relation is cut off. When consciousness disappeared or is let go, namarupa also cease. This is really difficult to explain and difficult to understand unless you have experience of sitting and letting go, opening the hand of thought. This is a really strange teaching. But I think this is what happening. So what Buddha is talking about is what is happening in our zazen. When we open the hand of thought, means we let go of this permanent self. Then things are just happening. And when I see namarupa as object, then my mind is separate in 2 parts, as subject and object, and we interact. But when we let go of thought, opening the hand of thought, this separation and interaction disappeared. That is what I think Buddha is talking about. And Buddha's transformation is really complete and thorough, but our transformation is not so thorough and complete. But we cannot say that doesn't happen. In our zazen and letting go of thought, it is there. But next moment, we again start to think, and our mind separate into subject and object. So we have to keep practicing this endlessly. I think this is what my understanding of what Buddha taught in Parivatta Sutta about his awakening. So his 5 skandhas cease to be cease to be mara. so function in different way as Buddha's body and mind. I think that is my understanding of what Buddha taught about transformation before and after his awakening. And in 2018, I introduced Dogen's poem, I think about Buddha's awakening. And this poem is very beautiful, but also difficult to what he's saying. When he talks about Buddha's enlightenment, he almost always uses the image of plum blossom in the snow. I talked last month when I give a talk for MZMC, the same thing. And until I understand what Buddha's teaching in Parivatta means in terms of my zazen practice, I really didn't understand what Dogen is talking about. The poem is as follows. This is very short Chinese poem. English translation in Dogen's extensive record is as follows. The five-petal flower opens, a 6 snowflake petals added. Though daytime with the blue sky, it's as if there were no light. If someone asked what color I see, these are Gautama's old eyes. Let me read it again. The 5-petal flower, this refers to plum blossoms. Plum blossom has 5 petals. A 6 snowflake petals added. Though daytime with blue sky, it is as if there were no light. If someone asked what color I see, these are Gautama's old eyes. What is this poem has a connection with Buddha's awakening? It's a really interesting thing. The reason why Dogen used the image of plum blossom is he was inspired by his teacher's poem about Buddha's awakening. And what his teacher Tienton Rujin or Tendon Nyojo wrote about Buddha's awakening is when Buddha saw the bright stars, bright morning stars, he lost his eyes. This is an interesting expression. He lost his eyes. In this case, Buddha was sitting underneath the Bodhi tree, and there is a bright morning star. And it is said Shakyamuni had awakening when he saw the bright morning star. So here is a relation, subject and object, Buddha and morning star. But when he lost his eye, this separation and interaction between subject and object disappeared. So this separation disappeared. That means this become one thing. That means there's no Buddha's eye and there's no bright star. Or we can say Buddha, because Buddha lost his eye, this entirety is bright stars. Or this entirety is Buddha's eye. Does this make sense? because this is one thing. There's no such separation as subject and object. That is what Buddha lose his eyeball means. That means he awakened to the entirety of interconnected origination as one thing, and he is a part of it. You know, this is happening within Indra's net, and Buddha was one knot of this thread, and bright star is another knot. But these are all connected as one, as a part of Indra's net. So this is Mahayana view or Mahayana teaching about what's happening between Shakyamuni and the morning star. So in Zen tradition, it is said when the morning star appeared, Buddha said he and great earth and all living beings simultaneously attained the way. So not only Buddha and the stars, but all beings, mountains and rivers and everything attain the way simultaneously. That means he awakened to the reality, everything is connected with everything within this interdependence. And there's no such separation. But that doesn't mean Buddha disappeared or morning star disappeared or each and every being disappeared. Everything are there as they are. And this kind of separation caused by our thinking. I am not a star, star is not me, is our thinking. But this thinking is ceased or released. Then this is one thing. You know, this universe is one thing, but somehow, and I think until human beings appeared in this universe and start to think, all other things are object, and they are not me, and I'm not them. Before that, you know, this entire universe is one thing. There's no such separation. So by letting go of thought, we return to this reality of emptiness or interconnectedness or oneness. That is what Buddha lost his eyeball. And what Dogen is saying is when, you know, this 5 petals of one plum blossom. You know, plum blossom is only flower. You know, when he lived at Eheiji, they had a lot of snow. So entire world is covered with white snow, and only plum blossom blooms. And the plum blossom are also white. And you know, one flower open 5 petals, and 5 petals, and one flower is exactly the same thing. In this case, each and every being within this network is 5 petals, and this entirety is one flower. This one flower, open 5 petals, came from Bodhidharma's saying, but Dogen changed the meaning. When in Chinese Zen tradition, this expression, one flower, open 5 petals, refer to, you know, Bodhidharma bring one flower. And in the history of Zen, 5 schools were established. So one flower means Bodhidharma's teaching, and 5 petals refer to Zen schools of Zen. So these two are different things. But Dogen used this image of one flower and 5 petals very different way. And I use this thing as same as one flower and 5 petals, 1 hand and 5 fingers. When we see this as 5 fingers, each finger has different name, different shape, and different function. So they are individual, and yet when I see this one hand, then the individuality disappeared. This is simply one hand, even though 5 fingers are still there. This is the same thing. To see this as a collection of individual things is the same as seeing this as 5 fingers. And to see this as one interdependent origination or network is same as one flower. So there's no such individuality. And when we sit and letting go of our thinking, actually, whether we see this as 5 fingers or one hand is done with our thinking. So when we open our hand, both are there, and yet we don't think either one flower or 5 fingers. And yet both are complete there as they are. That is what Dogen meant when he described his zazen practice as Jijuyu Zanmai. When we sit, showing the Buddha Mudra, all beings within the universe, myriad dharmas, things reveals as they are. Its true forms. And next he said, 6 petals, 6 snowflake petals added. Snow, what do you call this shape? There are 6, yeah. And so snow in Chinese poetry, snow is called a flower with 6 petals. So that means on the plum blossom with 5 petals, snow is falling. So this first line is a kind of description of snow is falling on the plum blossoms. So this is a scenery of winter at the hedge. And second line, though daytime with blue sky, it as if there were no light. So it's a sunny day with blue sky, but he said it as if there were no light. Light and darkness is Li and Ji, and that is absolute truth and conventional truth. To see this as one thing, this is darkness, there's no discrimination. But within blue sky, we can see the difference of each and everything. And we see both, even though it's a bright day with a blue sky, still there's no discrimination. So these both are there. And if someone asks what color I see, so everything is completely white. These are Gautama's old eye. So he says, this is Shakyamuni's eye. Shakyamuni lost his eye, and the eye Shakyamuni lost is there, is blooming as a plum blossom. And what I, in the poem I introduced last month in my lecture to MZMC, he said this plum blossom is Udumbara flower. That is the flower of Dharma. And in the story of transmission from Shakyamuni to Mahakashyapa, Buddha hold a flower. And this is Udumbara flower. And at that time, only one person, Mahakashyapa, smiled. And it is said, or Shakyamuni said, I have true Dharma, I treasury, and I transmit this to Mahakashyapa. So this Dharma was transmitted without any speech, any words. And what Dogen wrote in Shobogenzo Baika, or plum blossom, is, each and every flower is a Udumbara flower, not only the white plum blossom at the age when Dogen saw, but each and every flower is Buddha's eye. And yet Dogen said, we always fail to smile. That means we don't understand. Though those each and every flowers are Buddha Dharma. So I think this is my understanding of what Buddha taught as a kind of transformation before and after his awakening, and Dogen's expression of his zazen practice. So what Buddha taught and what Dogen expressed, I believe, is the same thing. And what Buddha said is what is happening within our sitting. We are released from subject-object separation. And through the teaching, Mahayana teaching of emptiness, he saw the interconnectedness as no separation. So this is my understanding of kind of a thread. Connect Dogen's teaching and Buddha's teaching through my practice of zazen. Well, this is what I have to say this morning. So actually, during Rohat session, we really focus on just sitting. This just sitting is actual practice or experience of what Buddha taught and what Dogen expressed within this poem. Even though we don't think, what we do during session is such a great thing. We just suffer of pain and sleepiness and to busy mind. But even though we have difficult time, difficult experience, but this zazen is actually expression of what Buddha experienced in his awakening and what Dogen expressed through his poems and almost entire first course, all the first course in Shobogenzo. Okay, thank you very much for listening. If you have comments or questions, please give me. I hope you understand what I said.
Are you okay with questions? Because last time. And I said, oh, I don't have a question. He said, good.
Yeah. If you don't have a question, that means you understand everything I said.
Oh.
So I am happy.
Presumptuous.
Well, often I didn't understand even what is a question.
Well, on this idea that everything is changing. So we got this idea of impermanence, right?
Yeah.
And we also have the idea of Indra's net and no separation.
Mm-hmm.
And you also brought up relative and absolute.
Yeah.
Okay, so time-space is a attribute of the field of relativity.
Mm-hmm.
The absolute,
Mm-hmm.
no separation.
Mm-hmm.
The absolute is not within regular time and space. Does Indra's net have a beginning in time? Does the absolute have a beginning in time? And if it doesn't have a beginning in time, then would the statement of impermanence be true with relationship to the absolute?
Well, in the teaching in Avatamsaka Sutra about Indra's net, it seems Indra's net is only a space. But when in the Lotus Sutra, when it talks about interconnectedness, but the Lotus Sutra connect time and space. So time is also part of interconnectedness. I think that, so we need to understand Indra's net include both time and space.
Okay, but also no separation, which
Right.
Buddha in his enlightenment,
Yeah,
the whole universe was enlightened with Buddha. Because
yes,
there's no separation.
right.
So no separation also means no space, because there's no distance between one thing and another.
Yeah, I think, this is space and everything is connected with everything. And when we think about time from past, present, and future, I think this is also one thing. I don't know what was there before Big Bang. It said time and space were created at the moment of Big Bang. But at least after Big Bang, if we don't make, measure the time using some unit like a second or 1 minute or 1 hour or 1 century, this is simply one moment without any segment. And this is simply one space without separation. And we are part of it, and things are changing within space and time. But nothing came in from outside, and nothing go out. So in that sense, all of us are there at the moment of Big Bang. Nothing disappeared, and nothing came in. This is strange.
So nothing is permanent.
Of course. This might be disappear sooner or later.
There's a poet, William Blake, who writes, he seems to write along these lines in some of his poems about, space and, him being several places at one time or several times at one instant.
Yeah.
See eternity in a blooming flower.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah.
You've heard of?
I don't know William Blake's poem, but
Yeah.
same idea, I think.
Yep.
Anything else? Please.
So, in sort of the spirit of connecting Buddha's teaching with Dogen's teaching, one thing I've kind of wondered about is, I feel like I don't hear Dogen talk about suffering. He doesn't use the word suffering, or like dukkha, very often. Use that actual term, and I'm wondering why that is, because that's sort of like what the Buddha taught is, I teach suffering, the ending of suffering. And so I'm wondering, I mean, he talks about it without using the word, but I wonder why that is. And I think cessation is another word that I don't know if he sort of uses as a Buddhist term, but that he maybe just talks about, like you said, in terms of non-separation. But so I wonder why he doesn't use certain like central terms that the Buddha used as often as he did.
You mean suffering?
Suffering.
I don't know. I'm sure he knows suffering. That's why he started to practice, and he studied Buddhism. And when he lived in Japanese society in 13th century, all people suffered. You know, there are a lot of wars, civil wars. Even the capital Kyoto became the battlefield. And it said, you know, the river in Kyoto named Kamogawa, there are a pile of dead bodies. And they also had epidemics and earthquake and typhoons, all those natural disasters. So in his Dogen's world, suffering is, how can I say, this world, his world was full of suffering. You know, at that time, in Japan there are two governments, emperor's government and warrior's government. If one country has two governments, there's no way to be peaceful. So always conflict. And so, even though in Shobogendo, when he discusses about Buddha Dharma, he doesn't use often the word suffering. But he tried to show suffering is not only our life is not only suffering. You know, depending upon our attitude, we can see, cessation of suffering, I think. And what he wrote is about cessation of suffering within his practice. So I don't think he ignores the reality of suffering. I think in Shobogenzo Zuimonki, when he talked to his disciples or monks, he often talks about the problems within Japanese society at his time, and he taught what we should do. And what he said was we should escape. Escape in Buddhist term is renunciation. Okay. Anything else?
Any questions from Zoom land?
No? Okay. So shall we finish? Okay, thank you very much for listening. I'm going to have a ceremony.
Yep.